Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're diving into something, uh, let's just say it's not the most appetizing topic.
Yeah, maybe skip this one before lunch.
Huh, maybe you're right about that. We're tackling ultra-processed foods. That stuff that just seems to magically appear in your hotel room's snack basket.
Oh, yeah, those tempting little devils.
Exactly. But, those brightly colored bags of chips, that jar of peanut butter that's always perfectly smooth, we're going to look at what's really in that stuff.
And more importantly, what that stuff might be doing to us.
Right. We've got some research here suggesting it's a bit more than just an occasional indulgence.
It's everywhere, isn't it?
It really is. So, are you ready to take the deep dive? Uncover the hidden world of ultra-processed foods.
I am. Let's do it.
Okay, great. So, first things first, I think we need to get a clear definition here. What exactly are we talking about when we say ultra-processed?
Right, because it's not just about, like, grabbing a pre-made salad or a frozen dinner.
Yeah, there's got to be more to it than that.
Yeah. It's all about how much the food's been messed with, like industrially transformed.
Okay, so how messed with are we talking? Like, what's the threshold?
Simple. If you got to read the ingredient list, chances are you're looking at ultra-processed. And if there are ingredients on there, stuff you wouldn't find in your own kitchen, it's definitely ultra-processed.
Okay, so unrecognizable ingredients, that's a red flag.
Big time. And you know what? There's this system, it's called NOVA, that actually categorizes foods based on how processed they are.
Oh, interesting. Like a ranking system for processed food.
Yeah, exactly. Like, from minimally processed, like, your basic fruits and veggies to the really scary stuff.
The stuff we're talking about today.
Yeah, and it's that intense processing that seems to be, well, the heart of the problem. It changes the food, changes how it affects our bodies.
It's interesting, I've never really bought into that calories in, calories out thing.
Yeah, it's way more complicated than that, especially with ultra-processed foods.
Exactly. It just seems too simple. What's the real story here?
Emerging research is pointing to something, well, kind of scary. It seems these foods might actually be hijacking our bodies. Messing with our hormones, even how our brains understand hunger.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying these foods can make us feel hungrier, even if we've had enough?
It's a real possibility. There are studies that suggest the way these foods are made, the mix of fats and sugars and all those additives, they might be triggering cravings, disrupting our natural signals.
So, like, our bodies are constantly being tricked.
It's like a constant battle against your own biology.
That's pretty disturbing.
It is, yeah. And, it makes you wonder, is all this by design? Like, are they deliberately engineering these foods to be addictive?
Right. I mean, it's kind of like the tobacco industry, isn't it?
It's a really interesting parallel. Back in the 80s, when tobacco companies were facing more and more regulations, they started buying up food companies.
Oh, wow. So they just shifted gears.
Yeah, they brought their marketing savvy, their distribution networks to a whole new market.
Food.
Food, exactly. And the thing is, a lot of these industries, they're still run by the same investors, same kind of, similar behaviors.
So profit over people, maybe?
It makes you think, right?
It really does. So, okay, we've talked about how these foods might be messing with our brains, but what about the actual, physical effects?
So you know how extreme athletes, they burn way more calories because they're constantly pushing themselves.
Right, yeah, they're like calorie-burning machines.
Exactly. But for most of us, the amount of calories we burn daily, it's pretty consistent no matter how much we move around.
So you're saying, like, exercise doesn't really burn that many calories after all?
It's more nuanced than that. Exercise is, like, incredibly important, but maybe not for the reason we think.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah.
So if it's not about burning off that extra slice of pizza, what's the deal with exercise?
It's about how it changes where those calories go. Your body's got this, like, energy budget, right?
Yeah.
When you exercise, it prioritizes fueling your muscles.
Okay, that makes sense.
So less energy available for other things.
Like what kind of things?
Like, think about anxiety, inflammation, hormone production. Exercise might mean your body allocates less energy to those areas.
So it's about, like, optimizing how our body uses energy, not just burning it off.
Exactly. And here's the thing. A lot of those studies that say exercise burns tons of calories, they're often funded by the same companies that sell us sugary drinks and ultra-processed food.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's all connected, isn't it?
It really is. So, okay, we've got to talk about the research into, like, what happens when people actually eat a diet of mainly ultra-processed food? What did they find?
Well, let's just say it wasn't pretty. Participants reported, a whole bunch of negative effects, both physically and mentally. And this was all consistent with other research, so, it's not just a fluke. They reported feeling tired all the time, like they couldn't control their eating, they were more irritable. And this is a big one. They started to feel like what they were eating wasn't even real food.
That's kind of creepy, actually.
It is. And while some people did lose weight, that wasn't the main point of the study. It was more about understanding the bigger impact, the whole picture.
So it's not just about the numbers on the scale. It's about how these foods make us feel.
Exactly. And the fact that people felt out of control, disconnected from their food, that's a pretty clear sign of how addictive these things can be.
Wow, this is heavy stuff. I'm already starting to rethink my own grocery shopping habits. You think we should do you think we should keep going with this?
Oh, absolutely. The deeper we go, the more fascinating and concerning it gets.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about how these foods affect us individually, but what about the bigger picture? Like how big of a problem is this, really? Is this just something we see in, places with a lot of fast food?
I wish. Sadly, it's much bigger than that. The ultra-processed food industry, it's got global reach. They're expanding like crazy everywhere.
Yeah, I've noticed that even in like smaller towns, more and more fast food chains popping up.
Oh, yeah, that's just the start. Think convenience stores, all those colorful bags of chips, sugary drinks, supermarket shelves, all those prepackaged meals. It's everywhere.
It's really kind of scary how much of it there is.
And it's not just adults. Even infant formula, it's being pushed aggressively all over the world, sometimes even replacing traditional breastfeeding.
So they're essentially trying to replace traditional diets everywhere.
Pretty much. And you know what that means. Real whole foods, those are getting pushed aside. It's like a homogenization of diets.
It's like we're losing something, something essential about our relationship with food.
Exactly. It becomes less about nourishing ourselves, less about cultural traditions. It all boils down to, well, convenience and profit.
And all that loss, it goes beyond just like what's on our plates.
Absolutely. Biodiversity takes a hit, local economies suffer, even our connection to, well, the land, the people who grow our food, it all weakens.
It's like this ripple effect touching everything.
And it's hard to fight back, this industry. It's powerful.
So what can we even do about it? I mean, it's like David versus Goliath, isn't it?
We can learn a lot from, the fight against big tobacco. Remember how effective those campaigns were?
Yeah, the public awareness campaigns, the warning labels, the taxes. Could that work for ultra-processed food, too?
It just might. Actually, some countries are already doing it. Clear warning labels on packages, highlighting the health risks, taxes on sugary drinks, restrictions on advertising to kids.
So, like a multi-pronged approach.
Hit them from all sides. And you know what? Early results are looking pretty good. People are becoming more aware, starting to change their habits.
That's great to hear. But those are some pretty big moves. Realistically, do you think that could happen everywhere?
Well, the food industry, they're not going down without a fight. They have a lot of influence.
So what can we do in the meantime, like as individuals? I mean, besides just trying to avoid these foods ourselves.
Awareness is key. Read those ingredient lists. Really pay attention to what's in your food. Cook at home more. Use fresh ingredients. Support your local farmers market.
Those are all good, but it still feels a bit like, I don't know, can one person really make a difference?
One person? Maybe not. But together, collective action, that's powerful. Support organizations that are fighting for a healthier food system. Vote for policies that put people before profits.
Yeah, make our voices heard. But what about the industry? Surely they're not just sitting back and watching all this happen.
Oh, no, they're pushing back hard. They're trying to discredit the science. They're lobbying against regulations. They're using marketing to make all this seem normal.
It's a little disheartening. But I guess it's not surprising. They have a lot to lose, right? But what gives you hope? I mean, with all this going on.
Honestly, just the fact that we're having this conversation, people are starting to ask questions, to challenge the status quo, that's where it all starts. And, we've talked a lot about the bad stuff, but I'm curious, what does a better future actually look like? Like, what are we aiming for? Okay, so imagine this. Grocery stores, full of fresh, affordable, colorful, real food. Farmers markets thriving. Cooking, it's not a chore, it's something we enjoy. Kids growing up with a love for real food, not bombarded with ads for junk.
Now, that's a future I can get behind. But how do we actually get there?
It starts with changing how we think about food. It's not just about convenience, about instant gratification. We need to, reclaim our kitchens, remember the joy of cooking, nourish ourselves with real food.
Back to basics, kind of.
In a way, yeah. It's a journey, though, not a quick fix. Every meal, every ingredient, every conversation about food, it all shapes the future.
So we're not powerless. We actually have a lot of control.
Exactly. And it's not about being perfect. It's about progress. Every little step, choosing an apple over chips, teaching our kids to cook, it all adds up.
This has been really eye-opening. I think our listeners are probably feeling pretty inspired to, make some changes. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to add? Something to help our listeners on their journey?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to remember is, well, we don't have to let this industry control us. We have choices. We can choose what's good for us, and we can, push for a better system.
It's good to remember we're not, like, totally helpless here,
Yeah.
but what can people actually do? Like, where do you even start?
Start simple. Read those ingredient lists. Seriously, don't let those long, complicated words scare you off.
Yeah, sometimes those ingredients lists look like a chemistry textbook.
Right. Here's a good rule. If you can't pronounce it or wouldn't find it in your own kitchen, it's probably not something you want to be eating.
Okay, that's a good tip. But what about when you're, like, short on time? Are there any easy swaps you can make?
Tons. Like, instead of chips, grab some nuts or, veggie sticks with hummus. Instead of sugary cereal, have oatmeal with fruit. Small changes add up.
I've found that cooking more has really helped. It's not just about avoiding processed stuff. It's actually, like, kind of fun.
That's great. Cooking, it's like a way to take care of yourself, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Start with easy recipes, then, branch out.
I think a lot of people get intimidated by cooking, but it's really not that hard once you get into it.
Right. And don't be afraid to try new things. Have fun with it. Get the family involved.
Speaking of family, what about kids? How do you get them to, like, appreciate real food?
Kids learn by watching us. So the best thing you can do, set a good example. If they see you enjoying healthy food, they're more likely to do the same.
Yeah, it's not about forcing them. It's about showing them healthy can be delicious.
Exactly. And get them involved. Take them to farmers markets. Let them help in the kitchen. Make it fun.
It's interesting, this whole conversation has really emphasized the importance of community. It's not just about what we do individually. It's about working together, creating a better food environment for everyone.
Absolutely. Support your local farmers markets. Get to know the people who grow your food. And, fight for policies that make healthy food accessible to everybody.
It's about creating a system that's good for us, good for our communities, good for the planet.
Right. And we don't have to do this alone. There are so many people out there working to make this happen. Connect with them, learn from them, join the movement.
This has been, well, I don't know about you, but this whole deep dive has been pretty eye-opening for me. We've seen the dark side of this industry, but we've also seen, the power we have to change things.
Absolutely. We have the power to choose better, to eat better, to build a better food future.
I hope our listeners feel that power, feel inspired to take action. This isn't about, like, guilt or deprivation. It's about being aware, making choices, creating a food culture that celebrates real food.
And remember, small changes can make a huge difference. Every time you choose that apple over the chips, every time you cook at home, you're voting for a healthier future.
That's a great way to put it. Well, thanks for joining us on the deep dive into the world of ultra-processed foods. We hope you learned something and, that you feel empowered to make some changes. Remember, you have the power to choose. Eat well, take care of yourselves, and let's build a better food future together.